Hi, in this video tutorial I'm going to be covering from the app navigation menu the meal order. And what I'm going to do is start out by doing an overview rather than explaining all the different fields. I'm going to give you the concept behind this application and how it's going to be used. Starting with the app navigation menu, you'll see up here that we have a meal order screen. And what the meal order screen does is it encompasses a lot of the stuff that you're going to be doing all into one screen to make it easier to do input and maintain information that you're going to be doing as far as placing an order. Obviously, placing an order is one of the principal things that an application does. Along with that, you will have the meal order view, what we call a list view, the meal order portal, where the actual records, individual records from this portal here, which is a multi-line portal, are going to be adding new individual records as you create one row, next row, and then there'll be a blank row that'll be created after that. What it's doing is creating a list of records. And over here you see where there's a meal order portal list. And what this does is it has a list in a list view of all the records with all of the actual transactions for the meal order portal. And in the other way, meal order list view does each individual record by the order number of the record. Now, let's talk a little bit about the concept behind this application. One of the things that I've been trying to do after doing some research, and this is actually about a 4-year project over a period of time, I would keep returning to this application. Originally, the applications were designed with typical approaches where there was a lot of buttons, and you would tap on buttons on an iPad, or you would use a Mac or something like a PC on Windows, and then what you would do is you would click on the buttons and create the record that you're seeing created in this screen. One of the drawbacks of that application design is by clicking on different buttons and changing screens, you're not viewing the entire amount of information you need to see. And in addition, if you do any ancillary screens, one of the problems you run into is that by having screens that you have to leave this screen to and go to another one, you're now ending up by having issues with navigating and spends more time while you're trying to do an order. The whole concept between this screen and the way that those are designed is that we're putting all the information in the application in this order form, and what we're doing is we're encompassing almost all the screens that you see and hear, these items right here. They're all the work that's being done here, with the exception of actually printing the invoice, are all done basically from this screen. What that does is it makes your life very simple as far as managing the information. You're basically creating a new record, and it's a new order record. Picture this as creating an invoice with all the information that's related to the invoice, having all the numerics of the thing that you normally would have a calculator pop up on the screen that you would have to do something for. This is all done basically by creating the base record for adding a new record, and you do that by coming over here and saying add a new record. Once you create a new record, the next numerical number would pop up here. It'll also put in the date and the time, and then you would select the particular server that's going to be doing the input of all the data. Now, I'm not going to cover these in all this information here in this screen, but basically I'll just tell you it's creating some background information and supporting information related to the actual transaction and the times and all that are going on, and then you're putting the meal items in here. And what we've done is extremely streamlined this, where basically you're just picking the meal order item and it's putting all the information in, and all you're doing is adding a quantity. It defaults to 1, and all you have to do is add 2, 3, whatever it may be, if you want to add a duplicate of a meal order item that is being ordered at the table at the time. It will automatically do the calculation. The only other thing you're going to be doing is if you have a tax that you're putting in here, a tax that's charged against each meal item. Now sometimes, in the way this is set up, it doesn't always require a meal item tax. So you got a 00, and you would add by editing, and I'll talk about that later when we go back in detail, you would add your own local tax rate, or if it's different tax rates for different kinds of things, like maybe drinks have a higher tax rate than do some foods, and some foods don't have any tax to them, that you would have the opportunity to not have a tax included. And of course it calculates all this. And one of the top things in here is you can pop up, you can see the actual food item. For every time you add one, you can actually show somebody if you needed to. And there are other ways to show the food items in the meal where you actually create the meals in the application. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you this is the overview and explain when you're actually adding new records, it's one table, one meal, one seating, and it's the people within that particular seating. And if you needed to split this ticket, which is one of the things that is very difficult to do in a lot of restaurant applications, it's very simple. You just add another record for that table. It'll automatically put the time and everything when you're taking the order and allow you to run multiple orders at that table. And then they would, all the stuff you're printing and taking, information and tips and all that stuff would all be included in this one record, and makes it very simple. Now, the approach for this application is that it would work best if it was used with an iPad, and that this thing was a cloud application. What is a cloud application? Well, a cloud application is an application that is hosted on a server and allows multiple devices and multiple people to add data as they need to and edit the data and do other things within the application. For example, you might have a manager looking at the floor to see how many tables are open and which people are on the tables now, if they're occupied and not, and when approximately they may be leaving. We'll be talking about that in the next video. And we'll be talking about all these things and how they're automatically set up to run fairly automated as far as like table status and stuff like that. We'll be talking about that. So in overview again, recapping, you create a new work order, is basically what it is, or a table order for food. Information is automatically added. You pick the meal items that you're going to actually be serving, and we'll talk about how that's done. And then we're also going to be doing the numerics for this will automate, pretty much automated except for the payment amount and so forth. And that's usually done at the end of the meal. And there's different approaches you can use in your business, either a walk-up counter, where people either can take a ticket, because you can actually print a 3-inch ticket like you do where you do a little fold over envelope and you bring it to the table. You can print a primary one, and then as they add a tip or whatever when it comes back up to pay for it. But ideally what you can do is if you have an iPad and you have a card strike on it, you can actually complete the full transaction at the table, take the money, take the tip, take all that stuff, and actually finish the record, and then print the record and get the tape, and then hand it to the people from your workstation where the servers go to add the meals information or wherever they're printing it from. So let's go ahead and stop here, and then we're going to be returning, and we're going to be covering these records and all the in and out things that are going on here in detail. Thank you.